Hey, gang, coming up on our Finding Better podcast, Victoria Pelletier is joining me. We're going to have a wonderful conversation and an incredibly insightful one about how AI is changing the workforce. You're probably experiencing it, and if you're not experiencing it, you're probably seeing and hearing things about it. The fact of the matter is, the best part of this conversation is that you can do something about it. You can empower yourself. You can take ownership of your career. Start getting curious, start asking questions. We're going to talk about how to get not only survive this new age of artificial intelligence, but how to thrive in it and how to make things better for you and your family. Please share this. Please subscribe because when you subscribe, it's free and it really helps us. But here we go. Enjoy. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we talk about real life lived experiences, not opinions, not concepts, not academics, real life experiences of people who have been there and done that in their own lives and finding better. Because I found that a lot of times the best path to success is to follow in the footsteps of people who have been there and done that and finding better in the things you might want to find better in. My guest today is Victoria Pelletier. Victoria, welcome to Finding Better.
Thanks for having me here. Very happy to be.
I am thrilled. I'm thrilled that you're here because we're going to have such a great conversation. Folks, let me just give you a little bit about Victoria's background because this whole conversation is going to be so relevant in terms of what we're going through and what we're living through today. We're going to talk about workforce transformation in the era of AI. And we're going to talk about resilience and overcoming adversity. Victoria did a TEDx talk on healthy resilience, and they fit together, right? Right? Overcoming adversity, resilience, this transformation into the AI era. 2 million views on her TEDx talk. Unbelievable. She's a #1 best-selling author of a book called, let me get it right, Influence Unleashed, Forging a Lasting Legacy Through Personal Branding. And that's kind of what we want to do. We all want to forge a lasting legacy, right? We're going to talk about that. She's also a mom. She's a fitness person. You can tell she looks really fit, and she's a foodie. So, but listen, okay, I'll finish up the introduction. As someone she doesn't subscribe to the idea of the status quo. She's always looking for new challenges. She's a 20 plus year corporate executive. She's a board director, and as a pretty prolific motivational and inspirational speaker, Victoria delivers keynotes discussing the significance of, get this, the whole human leadership. We're going to talk about that a lot. Being an empathetic and authentic leader, and you can actually also just replace the word leader with person, right? As well as the importance of personal branding and its impact on all of our professional growth. Wow, we're going to talk about a lot.
Looking forward to it, John.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go into this and let's talk about the world that we have today, that we're living in today. This world, this era of AI that we've entered and is only accelerating. And teach us, help us learn what we should know because this is hugely relevant.
Well, I'll leave the deeply technical stuff to you, John,
Oh
because
boy.
I sit at the intersection of large scale transformation, business and technology
Okay.
with the human, the workforce and the leadership and culture, although culture is the outcome of many different things.
Right.
In the last number of years, I have been working for large global technology companies. Um, I'm sure your listeners can look me up on LinkedIn and they'll figure out who they are. And very, very closely over this last year in particular, the majority of the conversations I'm having with clients is what is the North Star? So I've been leading things like value realization. So how do we build a business case to ensure value is achieved through AI? But then
Sure.
also part of value will be achieved through the humans. So looking at the processes, so human-centered design around the technology, but also building trust and having high-scale adoption for the technology that's being introduced. And then also needing to re-architect the entire org structure and operating models once companies get to AI at scale or become AI native, none of whom I'm working with today are. So the last thing I'll say before I turn it back to you is I'm highly disappointed that companies are building fear by blaming their layoffs right now on AI
Yes.
when none of them are, again, AI native or have moved. That's the excuse for the bloat that might have come through COVID or just otherwise a reduction in force to improve productivity.
And that's a really interesting perspective, right? Blaming AI and that in turn causing all this fear. Um, so in some case you could say misplaced fear
Yeah.
or undeserved fear, right? Um, so talk about that. Set us straight.
Yeah, I think you're calling it misplaced, John, is probably the right thing to call it because the reality is AI is going to change almost all of the workforce. I
You
mean,
bet.
maybe the plumbers can, he might use AI to buy the stuff he needs for his work more effectively, but the majority of the workforce is going to be impacted. So we all should be not fearful. We should all recognize that things are going to change. And for us to maintain relevance, we will need to upskill and learn how to use it more effectively. But we're not building trust. And I'm not talking trust in terms of the outcome of, the hallucinations and whatnot that come from. I'm
Hmm.
talking about trust in the purpose, in the why, in the what does this mean for me? And again, how do I ensure job security for future? And so
Right.
this is where I encourage leaders to look to do things very, very differently. Even just, I see this myopia that exists. I was working with a CFO of a large global company. I think his finance team is 1,500 people. And
Whoa. Okay.
his first use case for AI was going to be around a very small part, one process that about 50 people within his organization worked on. And I remember saying to him, I'm like, David, I said, like around communications, I'm like, let's talk strategically around what we're going to communicate to the team. He said, well, we don't need to. It's this very, very small group. I'm like, mm-mm-mm. I said, everyone talks. So I said, they're going to understand that you're starting with this, but everyone's going to say, what's next? What's
Exactly.
coming? Like I said, so this is where I'll say, like, we need to, be going to the whole human leadership and the way in which I try to encourage humans and leaders to show up. Like, let's be transparent to the extent that we can. I acknowledge we can't always, and sometimes we don't know. So in this case, saying to him, look, we're going to need to put together a strategy that says, I'd like us to be, sort of an example within our organization of how we're going to use AI. We're going to start with this group. It's going to impact about 50 people within the workforce. If, and ideally, he would plan this is what we're doing with those 50 people. We're going to upskill, we're going to redeploy them as we have natural attrition into other parts in our organization. Or
Hmm.
maybe you're saying they might not have roles in our organization, but like, let's be clear around that and say, we're going to work on a journey to see how that goes and we're going to evolve. I'm going to want your input and I'm going to keep you informed along the journey. Saying that builds some trust in the leader and what the path is versus saying nothing to the broader organization and only to the small group of people who are directly impacted.
And the rest of the organization sees that small group of people, and absent that transparency, you're keeping people guessing. And right, absent information, fear fills that gap oftentimes. Right.
Yep.
I
Yep.
love what you're saying because the thing is, one thing I've told my customers, and I tell anybody who cares, right, that one thing you can always expect from me is that I'm always going to be honest with you. You may not like the answer I give you,
Hmm.
but it's going to be an honest answer. I said that to thousands of people. Not a single person called bullshit on me on that, right? Everybody said, well, that's all I can ask for. And what you just outlined, I mean, people would just say, thanks for calling it out and letting me know. It may not be an answer I like, but you're being honest with me. right?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that. I love that. I want to, yeah, it's just, I want to shift from the leadership to the actual employees in just a second. But, as I think about, the world that we're going into, um, I believe we're in the process of experiencing a renaissance of heart. And what I mean by that is that in my 40 years in high tech, generations of new computer technology, smarter, faster, cheaper, more productive, all those different kinds of things. We've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart. And what you just outlined is an example to me of bringing heart back into business,
Mm.
right? Of doing right for your employees. I mean, oh my gosh, one of the reasons why I retired was because the company, and I'm not going to mention the company I was with, I just they the way they treated people in terms of workforce reduction, it sucked. It just it was just wrong, right? I mean, bunch of these people, they spent years, in some cases decades, and all they got was a thanks for coming. See ya. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. And so I'm getting off track here, but it's an offhanded compliment to what you just
Thank you.
said. And I hope I will be a voice to advocate what you're talking about and advocate you so you can continue to advocate it. So let's shift this a little bit. I want to shift it to uh, the employee,
Hmm.
right? Lots of employees are out there, most probably of whom don't have the benefit of working for people like the ones you're training,
Mm.
right? Um, what do you tell them? Or what should they what are things that they should know given this world that we're in?
Ugh. Well, first of all, I would tell, employees like you are squarely in the driver's seat, right? You're the CEO of your career, of your brand. Like, do not put it in the hands of others.
Yes, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
Yes, that
You
you
are
are
in
the
control.
you are the CEO of your career. And as much as it is critically important to find good coaches, mentors, and sponsors within the organization, you own your career. And so this is why, I mean, don't sit and wait for someone to say, this is the career path you're going to take. These are the skills that you need. Again, you want to find coaches and leaders, mentors who are going to help you with that. But you need to sit squarely in the driver's seat. And so that means spending time talking to people to understand me. Like I get you, if you don't know what you don't know, that's fine, but be inquisitive, ask questions, like and be reflective over where your career can take you. And again, what skills do you need to stay relevant, not just for today, but for the future? And sad to say, but there is no loyalty in business.
Uh,
Um,
uh,
I mean, there's loyalty to people, and this is actually why I encourage leaders to do things different. People leave leaders; they don't often leave just the company. And so,
right,
you
absolutely.
you need to, as the employee, be selfish around doing what's right for you. Again, making sure you're in the driver's seat, and not feeling guilty, quite frankly.
That topic of loyalty that you just mentioned reminded me of something my sister told me 30 years ago, as I was in the middle of my career and I was making some decisions and there's some just icky stuff that was going on. And she told me, she says, you know what, John? She says, there is no loyalty in business anymore. This is 30 years ago. Okay. And she says, and just understand this, whenever you receive a paycheck, you're even.
I like
You're
that.
even.
Yeah.
Company don't owe you nothing and you don't owe the company nothing. That's the world that we live in, she said. And it really stuck with me. But I have to tell you, oh my gosh, what you just said just kind of blew the top of my head off because what you just said, and I wrote it down, you are the CEO of your career. Folks, listen, you are the CEO of your career. Don't sit and wait. Do the work. Do the work. You know, the world is changing around us. So many people are just sitting there hoping that something bad doesn't happen. Something bad always happens every day, right? And do the work. It's your choice. It's your choice to wait. It's your choice to do something about it. And Victoria, just to my audience, you've heard me say that your life is the product of the decisions that you've made up until now. And if you don't believe in that, because yes, it's true, you couldn't choose your parents, but your life in the future is going to be the product of decisions that you make from now on. Decide, decide to take control, right? One thing that people are so fearful, Victoria, that I see of AI in this emerging world that we're moving into, that they don't see the forest for the trees. They don't see the opportunities that are starting to emerge. We have no idea what opportunities are going to be created in this new world that we're in.
Yeah.
But you know, if folks choose to take control and be the boss of your own life, right? One thing that happens that I've seen happen, that's happened to me. Oh, I can tell you the exact moment I decided to take control of my life. All of a sudden, I got curious. All of a sudden, I started thinking, okay, so now that I've decided, what else is out there, right? And all of a sudden, these blinders were like, oh, wait, hey, there's mountains over there. Hey, there's a lake, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. And what do okay, so just a couple of thoughts on people people when folks make that decision, they go, "Yes, Victoria, you are right. I can take control. I can become my own boss. I can do something to mitigate, to minimize the impact when something bad happens. What should I do first?"
Oh, I'm going to give you the good consultant answer.
Okay, good, good, good.
It depends. No. Yeah. Uh,
Whatever.
you know, I mean, I think I'd probably say first and foremost, there's a period of self-reflection that needs
Yes.
to take place. And
Yes.
with that comes some goal setting. Like what do I really want? Like so I love the ikigai philosophy, right? Around when you think about career and what you're going to do around, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can get
Yep.
paid for. Like, and so there's some reflection in those pieces, but there's also an element of like also what brings you joy and passion. Um,
Yes.
and then there's a whole other dynamic. Like, let's be clear. My mom used to say, she's like, Tori was my nickname. And she's like, Tori, money doesn't buy happiness, but it makes one hell of a down payment. And I mean, so sometimes there's financial goals. And so there's a level of self-reflection over again, what does the world need? What can you do? What can you get paid for? What's going to bring you joy? What brings you the financial objectives and everyone's definition of what success is and their wealth needed to live their lifestyle, they will define that. But like, so that's the first place I'd say is to start. And
I
with
love
that,
it.
then you need to build the plan with intention that's going to take you down that path. I sign most of my social media posts with two hashtags. One is unstoppable, and that is me. Nothing is going to prevent me from achieving a goal or objective I've set for myself. But the other one is no excuses, and that one drives my children crazy. But but I mean it a little bit more positively than it might actually come across. You cannot prevent all of the challenge, adversity that will come your way. You
Right.
have a choice in how you are going to react or respond to it. Just like John, what you've said, the series of decisions you've made to this point and the ones you make going forward. And
Hmm.
so then building a plan with intention to move towards that goal. What I think holds a lot of people back is fear and discomfort. And so the next piece of advice I'd have beyond that reflection and goal setting and building a plan with intention is to get comfortable sitting in a zone of discomfort or something that you are scared of. I think it is in that zone that magic happens.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Some people do everything they can to avoid discomfort, but what I've learned in my life in sales is that the greatest lessons I've learned that kept my career moving forward was when I didn't get the sale. And that's really uncomfortable. I mean, I did everything I could to win a sale so I didn't have to explain it to my boss why I didn't. But at the same time, I got to a point to where it's like, okay, if I if I only focus on comfortable on moving forward in comfort, I'm probably going to miss 80% of the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the way the world is. I love what you say about the first step being basically, and paraphrasing when you say reflection and setting your goals, give yourself the gift of learning about you, because it really is important. I remember one episode in my life. It was when I was with IBM. I was 10 years into the company, and at that time, IBM still had lifetime employment and that whole thing. I was miserable. It sucked. And my wife, we were living in Hawaii at the time. We'd moved from LA to Hawaii. And my wife said to me, she says, "Here," and she hands me this package. And it has a set of Tony Robbins one of Tony Robbins, motivational, change your life kind of thing. I said, "What do I do with this?" She goes, "You're going to go through this and you're going to fly to the island of Lanai for 3 days and 2 nights. Here's your plane ticket. Here's your hotel. You're going to listen to these and you're going to figure out what the hell's wrong with your life. And you're going to come back and we're going to talk about it." So I fly to the island of Lanai, and if you know the island of Lanai, it's owned by Larry Ellison now, but it's a beautiful resort, really, really a small island, not very many people on it. But at the time, it had two resorts, two beautiful five-star resorts. One of them was on the ocean. And so when I checked into this hotel, I said, "Hi, my name is John Suzuki. I'm checking in." They said, and the person behind the desk goes, "You're John Suzuki?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Sherry, Sherry, come here. John Suzuki's here." And I'm like, "What's going on?" And Sherry comes along. She goes, "Are you really here by yourself?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Nobody comes here by themselves. Everybody's a couple here."
Yeah.
And so anyway, fast forward to my going back home. I went through all the tapes. And the next day, I left a letter on my boss's desk, which was my letter of resignation. And I called my wife and I told her what I did.
Wow.
So,
Good for
so,
you. How did your wife respond to that, though?
so, when you decide to take control of your life, I would not recommend you do it the way I did. Bring your partner along with you as your
I agree.
because that could have gone a whole lot better had I done that. But it was the most liberating experience of my life, and it was an experience that I carried forward throughout the rest of my life. And that happened when I was 34 years old. And now I'm 65. So I've carried that for 31 years.
Wow.
And when you know that you have control, well, there's control is an illusion. I get that. But when you take some control over your life to understand who you are, what makes you tick, why things are important to you, and then apply that and look at the world. It's amazing what that difference can be,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. And I don't, maybe there's something about the age or just something between you and I, John, because I think there was a moment for me. I was 33. I remember it was my
Okay.
33rd birthday where I just said, like, I remember making consciously, I'm going to make some decisions. There were very big personal decisions that bled over into the professional side, but I was like, no, like it just I'm gonna do things for me because I want. I made some bold moves, and I'm gonna say I've never looked back, changed my outlook on things.
And I was just thinking, you were 33, I was 34, roughly 10 years into it, right? 10 years into our careers. I feel like maybe that 10-year time frame is enough experience to look at it, to get burned out, to call bullshit, and to start questioning yourself, right?
Yeah,
Maybe between then and 20 years is like the midlife crisis. So
yeah.
I think,
I feel like I started working at 11, which I know child labor laws would not allow that these days.
oh my gosh.
My first leadership role was at 14, my first exec role at 24. So I feel like as it related to career, I was maybe not midway, I'm
Okay,
really.
you were 20
Uh,
years
but
into it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but you're right. I mean, it was that was my way of, responding to that, period and just going like I want something very different for
Maybe there's something that, because I started working when I was 12. So
oh
you and I are like these kindred spirits. So maybe, yeah, maybe it is that 10 to 20 year,
yeah.
which for those younger folks who are listening, you younger folks, right? If you listen to what we're saying, we're giving you 10 years of your life. Start with you, start with who you are. And anyway, you're not going to listen to us because you've never been through it, but you will, and you'll look back on this and you'll say, Victoria was right. So anyway, with that, um, whew, that was awesome. That was really wonderful, folks. This is crazy cool stuff. Um, let's talk about authenticity.
Mm,
Okay, living authentically. Yeah, you say from a leadership standpoint, being empathetic and authentic.
mm.
What does that mean just from a regular human standpoint? And what value does it offer?
Uh, I think I'll start with that last part. I think it offers tremendous value. And I'll tell you it's because I think I got it wrong earlier in my career.
Hmm.
And so being authentic means embracing all of you, showing up your whole self, not hiding parts of yourself. And so for me to, so a little bit of my story. So I was adopted when I was 4, born to a drug addicted teenage mother who was very abusive to me. Thankfully, I was adopted out of that environment after being in the child welfare system. But to a lower socioeconomic family. So not a lot of money for, I couldn't go on school field trips and things like that. Uh, I was embarrassed by those things. One. Two, when I stepped into that first executive role at 24, I was the only woman. I was the youngest by 2 decades. And I felt like if I told anyone my backstory, I was worried they'd either feel sad or bad for me, think I was weak, question me. Also, if I showed vulnerability, I have a nickname now as the turtle. Tough, resilient exterior, but I'm soft and marshmallowy on the inside. In my 20s, I did not let that be seen in the workplace. I was fearful that that would be seen as weakness and that vulnerability. And it wasn't until almost a decade later, I said at 33, I just things started to shift for me. People didn't understand my drive. Like I remember even my boss questioning me. I made a decision, my choice, do as I say, not as I do. I tell my team. I took no maternity leave with my second, and barely any with my first. Uh, and for a host of reasons. One, my ex had cancer at the time and was home, and one of us needed to be, at work. Um, but also there was a big cutover going. There was lots of things, but that was my decision. And so
Yep.
it wasn't until I started telling people like, you need to understand where my A-type personality comes from, my backstory, why, I started working at 11, all of these things. So when I showed up, I also created that safe space to be vulnerable by telling more about myself. I saw a huge difference in the relationships I had with people and the trust that was built. particularly with my team. So I've now been a part of more than 40 merger acquisition divestiture transactions in my career and more than 100 corporate restructures. I'm asking people to trust me as we move through proverbial fire. But I built trust to do that, which I didn't have early in my executive career because I wasn't showing up as my authentic self.
And if I may paraphrase, if I can paraphrase, um, you build trust in you by trusting others with you. That's kind of what you did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and you see it. You see it when you understand where a person's coming from. Sometimes it helps. I would say usually it helps. Sometimes it doesn't. And it reminds me of this story that I read of this guy who was in a subway during rush hour. And in comes this dad with three kids, and these three kids are just, have you heard the story? They're
Yeah.
just going absolutely crazy. They're knocking newspapers out of people's hands. They're slapping people's coffee out of their hands. They're just screaming at each other and they're jumping all around. And this guy is looking at this, and the dad is just sitting there. He's not doing anything. He's not telling the kids to stop or anything like that. And so the guy turns to the dad and says, "Hey, you know, I don't know if you might want to get control of your kids." And the dad kind of looks up and goes, "Oh, yeah, I guess I should." He says, "We just got back from the hospital and their mother just died." And then all of a sudden, this guy who had all this pent up anger and blood pressure, as soon as he heard that moment, that's that what happened. He just everything was released. His blood pressure went down, and he turned to the guy and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Right? You know, just that understanding that man's story and what was going on. And so, but it's hard, right? I mean, it's hard to put yourself out there. And I feel like, and what I've seen and what I've learned myself is that, we are conditioned. We're conditioned by our parents. We're conditioned by society. We're conditioned by the people that we're supposed to act a certain way, that we're supposed to be a certain thing, that, you know, be who everybody expects you to be.
Hmm.
And yet, we as humans, as humans, it hurts us. But at the same time, it's really scary, right? Because what are they going to say? They're going to laugh. They're going to criticize me, all that stuff. So how did you overcome that? How did you overcome? How did you bring down that wall that you put in front of yourself?
I think it was a couple of things, John. I think one, I'll tell you, I think I finally loved myself,
Oh my
had
God.
had confidence, right? I think there was a lot of insecurity that I still sat with as an adult. Uh,
Sure.
fear of rejection if my biological mother could do something to,
Oh,
right? Like,
yes.
so I think there was a lot of work I need to do on myself to love who I am, history and all. So that was just work on me, confidence building, loving all of it, and being comfortable with who I was. The other thing I said earlier, stepping into the zone of discomfort. It
Hmm.
was, I feared telling people my story for a host of reasons. I feared what people might think of me. I also stopped caring less what people thought of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, right. And so, so being vulnerable, sharing those things. When I did it in baby steps, the power, like how it resonated with others and the reaction positively that I received, I was like, oh my God, I've been fearing this for so long, yet it's brought great power. So I sat in fear and discomfort. And when I dipped my toe into that, the reaction I had was the opposite of what I thought.
I love it. I love it. And I feel like a big part of that is that all of a sudden people could relate to you,
Yeah.
right? I mean, oh, whoa, she's human. Wow. She's got I thought that she was just this type A amazing person who makes my life miserable. Right? Right?
Or conversely, people who've also experienced trauma or challenge or adversity to recognize you can get through it, right? There is an
Yes.
alternative to it,
Right.
and that you can come out on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good for your heart. It's good for your heart, right? I mean, long ago, and this is, gosh, I mean, when I was in grade school, I made the decision, and I remember I made the decision. I don't care what anybody's going to say. I don't care what other people think. I just did. Of course, I care about what other people think, but to a large extent, I just said, you know what? I'm not going to be that concerned about it.
Hmm.
And because I want to, my whole thing is I want to make people happy. And if people got a problem with that, that's not my problem. And I remember thinking, like when I was in third grade, I thought about that. And the other thing I want to mention about authenticity, which is born of, I think, liking or loving yourself, right? Um, is that, and I don't want to turn this into a business or money thing, but you know what? Um, Authenticity has value. It really has value. And on your talks, when you're up there speaking, I'd bet you a whole bunch that one of the things that makes you so powerful as a speaker is that you're authentic and people feel it, right? I mean, I feel it. I feel it in our conversation, and it's really a wonderful thing. And so let's segue last thing as it relates to authenticity. You could, I don't know how, but you could assign a value to authenticity, a personal value, an economic value, a spiritual value. I mean, I'm sure you can. So let's talk about authenticity as it relates to personal branding and the importance of personal branding that you help people work through.
Hmm. I this whole notion, or as we talked about, the not being loyalty to business, but loyalty to humans. When I got recruited out of banking, which is where I worked throughout university. Funny goal is to be a lawyer, but I worked at a bank. Got promoted through the ranks. Loved the business world. Never went to law school. Got recruited into the world of B2B professional services, and all of a sudden thrust from running banking operations to leading sales and marketing teams. And
Hmm.
the one thing I did always know, people do business with people. And so I just remember part of me stepping in and learning a lot about sales and client management, and was around how do we create differentiation. So this journey began for me, and you said you're right. I just turned 50. I'm fine saying that. So, my first that executive role was now 26 years ago.
You
And
don't look a day over 19.
thank you, John. Um, and so I don't think the vernacular of personal branding existed back then, but it was more around how do we create a differentiation? I'm not even talking corporate brand, down to the humans. People are going to buy from one another. So that's where my journey began. But why I now, well, one, I've written a book on it, with actually a follow-up coming out in the fall, but and I coach people is because I see them get it wrong. They focus on one thing and one thing alone, which is their subject matter expertise and
Hmm.
like their job title and the company they work for, and maybe then the industry that they do that in. And that's it. But going back to
Yeah.
authenticity and the fact that people do business with people, we need to know more than your brand is more than that job title or the credentials you have and the patents or whatever you have behind. That's important. Yes. But the other critical elements of brand is What makes you you? So this is authenticity. What are the stories you want to help people? This is going back to you're the CEO of your career, you're also the CEO of brand you. Like you need to, it's not about being a caricature of yourself, but what stories do you want to help the narrative for people to understand who you are as a human? What are your passions? What values do you hold as a leader? How, what do you want to be known for? And then the next part of that is also, but what makes you different? So you also need to learn how to, in the world of consulting or professional services, there's lots of people with the same credentials, number of years of experience in your industry. Why are they going to choose to work with you versus someone else? So, who you are, what makes you different from others. And the last one is around legacy and impact. Like, what do you want to be known for? So, when I
Yes.
die, I don't want them talking about the size of P&Ls I've managed and how many mergers I've done. I'd rather them talk about me as a whole human being that I leave workplace, community, and the world a better place when I left it than when I came into it. Also, did I raise, in this case, as a mom of two, did I raise two really good human beings?
Yep.
A good partner? Was I a good friend? And you can't do that without being authentic and without telling parts of what makes you you versus just, again, that job title.
You know, one of the exercises that folks encourage people to do is to write your obituary and write your gravestone. And the idea being that whatever's on, first of all, what would people write on your gravestone today? Because you're not going to do it. Someone else is going to do it. Someone else is
Mhm.
going to write your obituary. What would they write today? And one of the things that I encourage people to do, which I was encouraged to do, was to write your gravestone and write your obituary, because those two things are looking back on your life, right? And my gravestone says, "Here lies John, a good son, a good father, a good friend, a good man, a man of God." And I wrote that 50 years ago. And to this day, every once in a while, I'll ask my family, was I really a good son to mom and dad, to
Mm.
grandma and grandpa? Because they're gone now and I don't have, and I'm always measuring myself on that, because I decided to write it and I decided to live my life by it. Start there. Start with when you're 6 feet under. And go live it. Go live your obituary that you just wrote for yourself. And yeah, because like you said, people when they write their resume, when they write the I by the way, I just launched a new website at johnsuzuki.com. I would love for you to look at it and tell me. And anyway, because I've tried to make it that have that personal spirit that you talk about. Check it out, you guys, johnsuzuki.com. Um, but anyway, um, so that personal branding part of it, um, why is it so important?
It, uh, I think it's critically important. Go back to, there's no loyalty in business. Stuff happens. I've moved around every few years. In large part, some of that corporate restructure, I've restructured myself out of that organization. And I have been found. I've rarely had to look for jobs in my career. It has been my brand that has attracted other employers, or in the context of my like coaching and side consulting work that I've done. I think and I told even my older son when he was 22 years old and coming out of college, I remember talking to him about building his LinkedIn profile and starting to build his brand. First of all, he's like, first of all, mom, LinkedIn's for old people. I'm like, dude, I'm like old
Yeah.
people like me who are going to hire you. So like
Yeah, that's
let's be
right.
clear. Um, so you need to build it. I mean, if for your listeners, if they haven't really focused on it at the tail point, that's fine. Start building whenever but the sooner the better. I mean, it is so critical. You think about now with well, I mean, whether it's AI, if you're going to type into any one of the, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, like it's going to search and it's going to find you. What is it going to find about you? So, I mean, but that's a digital footprint as well. Like it needs to be in the same in real life as, that digital footprint. I don't meet with any prospective client or any potential candidate without doing some research.
Hmm.
What I see should be more than what pops out on the single LinkedIn page. I should learn about who they are and their brand. Like it is so valuable to start to build a brand. And you, again, squarely in the driver's seat around the narrative and what you want to be known for. Again, not just what the years of education and experience are going to tell people about you.
Yes. And live a good life because a big part of your brand is your reputation, right?
Very much so. Very much so.
And what people are saying about you. And here's the thing, more so than ever, right? Through AI and because of the advancements of technology, people can find all kinds of information about you. Now, some of the information out there might be wrong, but a whole bunch of it, it's out there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, live a good life if you want a good life, and it's super important. Victoria, this has been amazing. This has been an amazing conversation. And I feel like folks listening to this will want to listen to it again because this whole question of okay, AI is taking over. Oh no, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to my future? All that fear. You just gave us the answers in a big way. Take control. Take control. If you don't take control, you end up being a victim. So you can take control over it, or you can become a victim of it.
Hmm.
I wrote this book about the Japanese American internment camps during World War II. And the story was about, I call them concentration camps because they were. But the story was about this one man from Seattle who was 19 years old at the time, and he got caught up in it. And what happened was, just for folks who don't know, World War II happened, Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. President of the United States issued an executive order to put everybody of Japanese ancestry in concentration camps across the United States in the deserts and swamps, just because of the color of their skin or because of their heritage and ancestry. So 250,000 people, including 60% of whom were kids, were thrown into these camps. Some people complained about it, but there was this group of young men who decided to do something about it. And instead of becoming victims, they decided to volunteer for the United States Army, the same army who put them and their families in those camps to begin with. So instead of being victims, they decided to become champions. And they went on and became part of a segregated war unit called the 442nd, which was all Japanese Americans. And this group of men went on to become the most decorated war unit in the history of the United States for its size and duration. And a bunch of these guys came out of the camps. Unbelievable story. Why the heck would you volunteer to fight for the same army that threw you and your family in those camps to begin with? But they did because they chose to do something, to take control, to prove their loyalty. We don't have to go back into that part of the conversation, but that's what they did at that time. And they ended up changing the world. And so, folks, the choice is yours. I think, Victoria, I think that's kind of the net of the conversation that we just had. The
Yeah,
choice is yours. You can fear it, or you can do something about it and get ready for it.
exactly.
Because, excuse my French, but bad shit's going to happen, right?
That's right.
And the more you prepare yourself, the less bad it's going to be. You're going to go, okay, well, I was expecting that, so let's go. That's where we all want to be. Victoria, do you have any parting words? I mean, I hope so because I'm really looking forward to it.
Um, I, I mean, you've summed up the conversation well, John, in terms of, yeah, I'll say what I said earlier. You're the CEO of you, your career, of your brand. But and I talked a bit about getting uncomfortable. I'll leave your listeners with is one of my favorite quotes is from George Adair, and it says, "Everything you've ever wanted lives on the other side of fear."
Ooh, say that again. Say that again.
Everything you've ever wanted lives on the other side of fear.
Oh, that is cool. There's another quote similar to that by a guy named Zig Ziglar.
Oh, the
You
sales
remember
guru.
Zig? Yeah,
Yes.
he's a sales guru. He says you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want in life.
Mm,
But I think I like yours better. Everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
mhm.
Okay, way to close. Holy cow. Victoria, this has been so much fun. You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you. God bless you. And I so appreciate you. Folks, share this. Share this, please. And because someone you know needs to hear this, right? This is the lifeline out of this chaos that we're living in right now. And wonderful, wonderful. So with that, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.